They thought he was just a quiet old man with a garden and a workshop. But when he told them to call Agent Harris and black SUVs pulled up minutes later, they realized too late who they were mocking. This isn't just a story about a retired veteran. It's about quiet strength, unspoken history, and why respect should never come too late. Before we begin, let us know where you're tuning in from, and if you believe real heroes don't need to raise their voice, hit subscribe. Jack Mitchell lived in a small town called Maplewood. It was a quiet place with neat houses and friendly neighbors. Jack was a retired veteran who had served his country with honor. Now, he spent his days in a modest home with his wife, Emily. Their house had a small garden where Emily grew flowers and vegetables. Jack was known for his skill with woodworking. He had a small workshop in the garage where he crafted tables, chairs, and other items. His work was simple but well-made, showing the care he put into each piece. Jack was a man of few words. He liked to keep to himself, but he was always ready to lend a hand when someone needed help. Most people in town knew him as a quiet, kind man. They did not know much about his past, only that he had served in the military. Jack had never been one to boast. His achievements and stories from his service were kept private, shared only with Emily. She was his rock, always there to support him, no matter what. Every week, Jack volunteered at the local community center. He taught woodworking to teenagers who were having a tough time finding their way. The teens were often sent there by the school or by their parents in hopes that learning a skill might help them. Jack enjoyed teaching them. He saw potential in each young person and believed in second chances. Through woodworking, he taught patience, dedication, and the satisfaction of creating something with one's own hands. Emily was well known in Maplewood too. She was active in local charities, always looking for ways to help others. Whether it was organizing food drives or helping at the shelter, she gave her time freely. Her kindness was a perfect match for Jack's quiet strength. Together, they were respected figures in their community. Despite their quiet lives, there was a group of local troublemakers who often caused problems. They were young and reckless, always looking for ways to stir up trouble. They liked to make fun of Jack, calling him an old man and questioning his past. They did not understand the depth of Jack's experiences or the strength behind his calm demeanor. Emily, too, became a target for their jokes. They did not see the courage it took for her to stand by Jack through the years. On a peaceful afternoon, Jack was at the community center. He was teaching a group of teens how to carve a simple wooden bird. The air was filled with the sound of chisels and the smell of fresh wood. The teens were focused, their usual restlessness calmed by the task at hand. Jack moved among them, offering guidance and encouragement. He enjoyed these moments, seeing the pride on their faces when they completed a project. As he was wrapping up the session, Jack received a call from Emily. Her voice was calm, but there was something in her tone that made him pause. She mentioned that she needed him to come home, but did not say why. Jack felt a twinge of concern. Emily was not one to call him away from his work without a good reason. He finished up quickly, making sure the teens had everything they needed to keep working. They promised to clean up and lock the workshop before leaving. Jack trusted them, knowing that they respected him too much to let him down. He grabbed his coat and headed out. The community center was not far from his house, so he decided to walk. The fresh air helped clear his mind as he made his way home. As he walked through the quiet streets of Maplewood, Jack thought about Emily. She was more than just his wife, she was his partner in every sense of the word. They had been through so much together, and he trusted her instincts. If she felt something was wrong, then he would be there by her side. He picked up his pace, eager to get home and see what was going on. The sun was beginning to set, casting a warm glow over the town. Jack liked this time of day when everything seemed to slow down and the world grew quiet. It was a time for reflection and gratitude for all the good things in life. As he approached his house, he saw Emily in the garden, tending to her plants. She looked up and waved, a smile on her face. Jack felt a wave of relief. Whatever was happening, they would face it together. But as he got closer, Jack noticed a group of young men hanging around near his driveway. They were the troublemakers, the ones who often mocked him. He could hear their laughter carried on the evening breeze. Jack's heart sank a little. He hoped they would not cause any trouble today. He wanted nothing more than a quiet evening with Emily. As he approached, Jack nodded to the group, acknowledging their presence. He did not want to start anything, but he would not ignore them either. The leader of the group, a young man named Travis, stepped forward. He had a smirk on his face, the kind that showed he thought he was in control. Jack met his gaze, calm and steady. The troublemakers began to whisper among themselves, throwing glances at Jack and Emily. Jack stayed silent, waiting to see what they would do. He was not afraid of them, but he knew that any confrontation would not end well. He hoped they would lose interest and move on, but something told him that today was different. Emily joined Jack, standing by his side. She looked at the young men, her expression kind but firm. Jack felt her presence as a source of strength. Together, they faced the group, waiting to see what their next move would be. The tension hung in the air, a stark contrast to the peaceful evening. Jack took a deep breath, ready for whatever might come next. Jack felt the evening air grow tense as he and Emily faced the group of troublemakers. Travis, the leader, stood with his friends, their laughter now quieted to mocking whispers. Emily's garden, usually a place of peace and growth, became the backdrop for a standoff. Jack had hoped for a quiet evening, but it was clear that these young men had other plans. Travis stepped forward, his smirk growing wider. He looked at Jack with a mix of bravado and disdain. The other boys watched, eager to see what would happen next. Jack stood firm, his hands at his sides, showing no sign of fear or anger. He had faced much worse in his life, and he knew how to handle himself. Travis began to taunt Jack, calling him an old man and questioning his ability to protect Emily. His words were sharp, aimed to provoke and humiliate. Jack listened quietly, letting Travis have his say. He knew that reacting with anger would only escalate the situation. Emily stood beside him, her presence a steadying force. The taunts turned to Emily, with Travis making cruel jokes about her age and her work in the garden. The other boys laughed, egging him on. Jack felt a flicker of anger but kept his expression neutral. He knew that words could be powerful, but they also could be ignored. He glanced at Emily, who met his eyes with a calm nod. She was not afraid, and neither was he. Jack decided to try and de-escalate the situation. He stepped forward slightly, addressing Travis in a calm voice. He suggested they leave and enjoy the evening elsewhere, trying to appeal to their better nature. But Travis was not interested in backing down. He saw Jack's attempt at peace as a sign of weakness. The young man's taunts grew bolder, his friends joining in with jeers. Jack felt the tension rise, the situation teetering on the edge of control. He took a deep breath, reminding himself to stay calm. He had dealt with aggression before, and he knew that maintaining composure was key. But then Travis crossed a line. He made a derogatory remark about Emily that was too personal, too cruel. Jack's eyes narrowed slightly, a subtle shift in his demeanor. The laughter from the group faded as they realized the change in Jack's posture. He was no longer just an old man standing in his driveway. Jack took a step closer to Travis, his voice firm but steady. He spoke 5 words that carried a gravity the young men could not yet understand. "Call Agent Harris right now." The group looked at each other, unsure how to react. Some laughed, thinking it was a joke. Others were confused, sensing there was more to Jack than they realized. The name Agent Harris hung in the air, unanswered. Jack's calmness in the face of their mockery began to unsettle them. Travis tried to brush it off, maintaining his bravado, but Jack's unflinching gaze held him in place. There was no anger in Jack's eyes, only a quiet confidence that demanded respect. Emily watched silently, knowing the weight behind those words. She trusted Jack completely, understanding the history and connections he rarely spoke about. She turned to go inside, deciding to make tea. It was a small gesture, but it showed her faith in Jack's ability to handle the situation. As Jack stood there, he thought about the name he had just invoked. Agent Harris was an FBI agent who owed his career to Jack. Years ago, during a critical mission, Jack had intervened and made decisions that saved lives. Harris had never forgotten that, and they had kept in touch over the years, bound by mutual respect and gratitude. The young men continued to whisper among themselves, their bravado slowly fading. Jack remained still, giving them time to process what he had said. He knew that sometimes patience was the most powerful tool in defusing a situation. He had learned that in the military, where quick reactions often led to mistakes. Travis, still trying to regain control, scoffed at Jack's words. But there was a hint of uncertainty in his eyes now. He realized that Jack was not backing down, that there was something more to him than just an old man with a quiet life. The other boys began to shift uncomfortably, sensing the change in the atmosphere. Jack decided to let the moment hang, allowing the weight of his words to sink in. He knew that Agent Harris would respond if called, but that was not his goal. He wanted to teach these young men a lesson, to show them that respect was earned, not taken. He hoped they would understand the message without further escalation. The evening air grew still as the group stood in silence, unsure of what to do next. Jack remained calm, his presence a quiet reminder of the strength that lay beneath the surface. Emily returned to his side, her presence a comforting support. Together, they faced the young men, a united front against the challenges of misunderstanding and disrespect. Eventually, the tension began to ease. Travis, sensing he had pushed too far, muttered something to his friends. Slowly, they began to back away, their bravado diminished. Jack watched them go without a word, his point made without needing to resort to threats or violence. As the troublemakers disappeared down the street, Jack turned to Emily. She smiled gently, knowing that they had faced the situation together with dignity and grace. Jack felt a sense of relief, glad that the evening had not turned into something more serious. They walked back to their house, hand in hand, the warmth of their bond unshaken by the events of the day. Jack knew that words had power, and sometimes it was the quiet ones that carried the most weight. He hoped that Travis and his friends would think about what had happened and learn from it. Inside, the house was filled with the comforting aroma of freshly brewed tea. Jack and Emily settled into their evening routine, grateful for the peace they had worked hard to maintain. They knew that life would always have its challenges, but together they could face anything with courage and respect. Jack and Emily settled into their evening, the tension from earlier slowly ebbing away. They shared a quiet dinner, their conversation light and easy. Emily asked about the teens at the community center, and Jack told her about their progress with the woodworking projects. It was a routine they cherished, a time to reconnect and enjoy each other's company. Outside, the night deepened and the streets of Maplewood grew quiet. Jack felt a sense of calm return, but he couldn't shake the feeling that the trouble with Travis and his friends wasn't completely over. He hoped they had understood the unspoken lesson and would think twice before causing more trouble. As they finished their meal, Jack's thoughts drifted back to Agent Harris. It had been a long time since they had spoken, but Jack knew that the bond they shared was strong. Harris was a man of integrity, and Jack respected him deeply. Their history was marked by moments of trust and courage, moments that had shaped both their lives. Meanwhile, Emily moved to the kitchen to make tea, her calm presence a comfort to Jack. She had always believed in him even when others doubted. Her faith in his ability to handle difficult situations was unwavering. Jack appreciated her strength and the quiet support she offered every day. Suddenly, the sound of engines disrupted the silence outside. Jack stood, glancing out the window. Black SUVs pulled up in front of their house, their presence unexpected and commanding. Jack felt a mix of surprise and anticipation. He knew who they were, and he understood the significance of their arrival. The vehicles parked, and men in suits stepped out, their movements precise and purposeful. At their head was Agent Harris, his expression serious but respectful. Jack had not expected such a swift response, but seeing Harris brought a sense of relief. Whatever needed to be addressed would be handled correctly. The neighborhood seemed to hold its breath as the agents approached. Jack opened the door, stepping out to meet them. He nodded to Harris, who returned the gesture with a slight smile. There was no need for words between them, their shared history spoke volumes. Harris introduced himself to Emily, extending his hand with courtesy. She greeted him warmly, sensing the mutual respect between him and Jack. The presence of the FBI was unexpected, but she trusted Jack's judgment completely. Travis and his friends, who had lingered nearby out of curiosity, watched the scene unfold with wide eyes. Their earlier bravado vanished in the face of the agent's authority. They had not believed Jack's words, but now they understood their weight. The realization of their mistake was clear on their faces. Harris addressed the group, his voice calm but firm. He explained who Jack was and the importance of the work he had done in the past. He spoke about the missions that had saved lives and the respect Jack commanded in federal circles. The young men listened in stunned silence, the reality of Jack's past finally sinking in. Jack remained quiet, allowing Harris to take control. He watched Travis and his friends, noting the change in their expressions. There was no smugness in Jack's demeanor, only a desire for them to learn from this experience. He hoped they would see the value in humility and respect. Harris turned back to Jack, expressing his gratitude for everything Jack had done. The agents would ensure that the troublemakers understood the gravity of their actions. Jack nodded, satisfied that the situation was being handled appropriately. He knew that Harris would not let this go unaddressed. With the formalities over, Harris and his team prepared to leave. The neighborhood, which had been watching from behind curtains and doorways, began to stir with whispers. The story of Jack's unexpected influence would spread quickly, leaving a lasting impression on the community. Travis approached Jack, his previous arrogance replaced by a humble demeanor. He struggled to find the right words, clearly shaken by the events of the evening. Jack met his gaze, offering a nod of understanding. He knew that this was a turning point for Travis and his friends, a chance for them to reflect and change. As the SUVs drove away, the street returned to its usual quiet. Jack and Emily stood together, watching the taillights disappear into the night. Emily slipped her hand into Jack's, her touch warm and reassuring. They had faced another challenge and emerged stronger. Back inside, the atmosphere was calm once more. Emily poured the tea and they settled into the living room. Jack felt a sense of peace knowing that the situation had been resolved without conflict. He hoped that Travis and his friends would take the lessons of the night to heart. The events of the evening would be a topic of conversation in Maplewood for days to come. Jack's quiet strength and the respect he commanded were now known to all. The community's view of him would shift and the troublemakers would reconsider their actions. Jack hoped that they would seek a better path, perhaps even looking to him for guidance. As the night wore on, Jack reflected on what had happened. He realized that true authority didn't come from force or intimidation. It came from respect, integrity, and the ability to stand firm in one's convictions. Jack had always believed in these values, and now they had proven their worth. Emily leaned against him, her presence a reminder of all they had built together. Jack felt grateful for her unwavering support and the life they shared. Together, they would continue to face whatever challenges came their way, confident in their strength and love. The night grew deep and the house was enveloped in a comforting silence. Jack and Emily sat together, enjoying the peace they had earned. Their bond, like Jack's quiet influence, was unshakable and enduring. In the end, it was the power of respect and humility that had prevailed, leaving a lasting impact on all who had witnessed it. In the days that followed, the story of Jack Mitchell spread across Maplewood. The townspeople talked about the retired veteran who had quietly shown his strength and influence. Many had underestimated him, seeing only an older man with a quiet life. But now they understood the depth of his experience and the respect he commanded. Travis and his friends were particularly changed by the incident. The presence of Agent Harris and the revelation of Jack's past left a deep impression on them. The bravado they once displayed was replaced by a newfound respect for Jack. They began to see him not just as an old man but as someone with valuable lessons to teach. Travis approached Jack a few days later, asking if he could join the woodworking classes at the community center. Jack welcomed him and his friends, seeing their interest as a positive step forward. He understood that they were looking for guidance, a way to channel their energy into something constructive. At the community center, Jack continued to teach woodworking, but now his classes had a new dimension. Alongside the skills of carving and crafting, he also taught about respect, patience, and the importance of good character. The teens listened, their previous skepticism replaced by genuine curiosity and a desire to learn. Jack's influence grew not just among the troublemakers but throughout the community. Parents began to see the changes in their children who spoke about Jack with admiration. The teens who had once mocked him now sought his advice, eager to learn from his experiences and wisdom. Meanwhile, Emily became more involved in her charity work. The incident with the troublemakers inspired her to start new programs aimed at youth empowerment. She organized workshops and events, inviting speakers to talk about leadership, responsibility, and community service. Jack supported her efforts, attending events and sharing his own stories when asked. The impact of Jack and Emily's efforts was felt throughout Maplewood. The community center became a hub of activity with more teens joining the classes and programs. The atmosphere was one of growth and positivity, a stark contrast to the tension that had existed before. Jack found joy in seeing the progress of the teens he worked with. He watched as they learned to create with their hands, gaining confidence and pride in their work. The transformation in Travis and his friends was particularly rewarding. They had moved past their previous behavior, now focused on building a better future for themselves. Emily's programs also flourished. She connected with local businesses and organizations, creating opportunities for the youth to engage with the community. The initiatives she led helped young people find their path, encouraging them to contribute positively to society. Through all of this, Jack and Emily's life remained centered and calm. They continued their daily routines, enjoying the simple pleasures of their quiet life. They took walks through the town, tended to their garden, and spent time with friends and neighbors. Their bond, strengthened by years of shared experiences, was a testament to their enduring love and partnership. One afternoon, as Jack and Emily sat in their garden, they reflected on the changes that had taken place. Jack thought about how a few words had shifted the course of events, leading to growth and understanding. He realized that true power lay not in force, but in the ability to inspire and guide others. Emily shared her thoughts about the future and the potential she saw in the young people they worked with. She spoke about the plans for expanding the programs, reaching even more teens in need of direction. Jack listened, his heart full of pride for the woman who stood by his side through everything. The community's view of Jack had shifted, but he remained humble. He saw himself not as a hero, but as someone who wanted to make a difference in his corner of the world. His past, filled with unspoken valor, was a foundation for the life he built in Maplewood. The respect Jack earned was reflected in the small gestures from those around him. Neighbors would stop to chat, offering thanks for his influence on their children. The local shopkeepers greeted him with warmth, acknowledging his positive impact on the town. Even the young police officers would tip their hats in respect when they saw him. Travis and his friends became regulars at the community center, dedicating their time to learning and helping others. They volunteered to assist with repairs and maintenance, eager to give back to the place that had offered them a new beginning. Jack watched them with quiet satisfaction, knowing that they were on the right path. As the weeks turned into months, the changes in Maplewood became more apparent. The town felt more connected, with people coming together to support one another. Jack and Emily's efforts had sparked a movement of kindness and cooperation, leaving a lasting legacy in their wake. In the end, it was not the dramatic events or the presence of authority figures that had the most impact. It was the simple acts of teaching, listening, and caring that truly made a difference. Jack understood that his role as a mentor and guide was more valuable than any accolades or recognition. On a warm evening, Jack and Emily sat together on their porch, watching the sun set over their garden. The peace they felt was hard-earned and cherished. They knew that life would continue to bring challenges, but felt ready to face them together. Jack reflected on his journey, understanding that he had found his true calling in the quiet moments of teaching and guiding. The respect and influence he held were not from his past achievements but from his present actions. And that, he realized, was the true measure of a hero. As the last light of day faded, Jack and Emily sat in comfortable silence, knowing that their lives, though simple, were filled with purpose and love. If you loved this story, like the video.